Ethan Klein, one of YouTube's React content founders, is suing 3 streamers for reacting to one of his videos. Sounds crazy, I know. Frogan, Denims, and Kaseytron are the main streamers in question. Now, before you start picking sides, there's a lot more to the story. So, let's get into it. This is your TLDR. To understand more about the situation, we have to go back a bit. Ethan used to host a podcast with a creator by the name Hassan. We're not going to get into their beef or their political views because that's a whole nother can of worms. But to sum it up, Ethan and Hassan broke up, and it was messy. Since then, fans and haters of both of them have been fueling the beef, resulting in both creators getting harassed basically nonstop. But our main focus here is Ethan, who has been very vocal about the harassment that he's been receiving. And just to make it clear, I'm not saying that Hassan is responsible for this. It seems more like the people behind Ethan's harassment come from the H3 Snark subreddit, which Ethan has had an ongoing problem with for some time. But more on this a bit later. For the past year, Ethan has been receiving a lot of hate from other creators, mostly Twitch streamers and their communities, who he points out are aligned with Hassan's community. Ethan calls them Hassan Orbiters. There's a good list of these creators who openly dislike Ethan, but the 2 main people we see him go back and forth with are Frogan and Denims. Frogan, who was seemingly cool with Ethan and his crew, in particular AB, a year prior to all this, began publicly calling Ethan a Zionist, and even used his face for her thumbnail in a controversial tier list, ranking Ethan in the F tier next to Ben Shapiro. The tier list was a who can use the phrase Habibi tier list, where Frogan and a few other streamers ranked people to determine if they had the pass to say Habibi, which is an Arabic way of saying my baby or my love, basically a pet name. Ethan took this as Frogan basically calling him a Jew and being Jewish as the bottom tier very offensive. And as it would turn out, Twitch would later ban Frogan and the other streamers who participated in the tier list for 30 whole days. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, we are not going to get into anyone's politics, okay? I'm just giving you the background to why Ethan and these people are beefing. Moving on, Denims didn't have a huge situation like Frogan, but she has consistently criticized Ethan and diminished Ethan's claims about the harassment that he's received. Kaseytron talks about him on her streams too, but respectfully, I would say she doesn't have as much motion as Frogan and Denims, at least when it comes to Ethan. Before we move on, I think it's important to say that I don't believe these people are personally attempting to dox Ethan, sending him death threats, or anything crazy like that, despite the fact that they do make fun of him and openly voice how much they dislike him. It's most likely some weirdo haters that are taking advantage of the beef, but Ethan believes that the streamers are allowing and potentially even encouraging this kind of behavior to go on, which is part of the reason he decided to take this to court. Okay, so now we have some background on all of these people and Ethan's beef with them. Back to Hassan. In the fallout, Ethan and Hassan began taking shots at each other. Fans of both of them were on the front lines and haters of both of them were fanning the flames, which ultimately led to 2 human skulls being shipped to Ethan and his crew.
Something that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, we received 2 human skulls in the mail at our home, which led us to having a very pleasant interview with the FBI. Things have progressed well past the point of that's just what the internet does.
It also resulted in an anonymous CPS call. The CPS call is very important to this story. I think we can all agree that calling CPS on somebody just because you don't like them is very wrong, and I really don't think we need to explain this any further. So, the CPS accusation against Ethan was that his home was disgusting, messy, and covered in poop. Yes, that's really what it was. This came after Ethan had gone on his show and stated that he thought he had a disease called Giardia after adopting a dog and finding out she may have been sick with it. It's basically like a viral stomach flu that pets get sometimes. It's transmitted through feces, and this was used as the reason someone called CPS on Ethan's family. Later, it would turn out that neither Ethan or his pets had Giardia, but that didn't stop CPS from going to his home and interviewing him and his children. Thankfully, nothing came out of it, and CPS confirmed that the complaints against Ethan were not credible. But despite this, Many creators claimed that he was lying about the situation entirely, and just flat out stating that it's no big deal.
For Hila here to be like, this is so traumatic for the kids, you're trying to traumatize the children. It's like, dog, you literally, the vast majority of people are not remembering anything that happened to them at 3.
Ethan really did not like this, and this is where things get serious. The fact that the internet dragged his children into the harassment resulted in Ethan stating that the rules for how he handles these situations had now changed. At the time, people didn't know what exactly he meant, but he did announce that he was going to drop a video on Hassan in the near future, which he named Content Nuke Hassan Piker. Ethan teased the release for a couple of weeks, and when it dropped, the nuke was around 2 hours long. In it, Ethan meticulously went over the problems he has with Hassan, and even encouraged him to react to it on stream so that he could respond to all of Ethan's complaints live. Hassan initially refused to watch the content nuke for a couple of weeks and began calling it content puke, but eventually he did react to it, a process that lasted around 2 whole days. We'll get back to this later, but for now, put a pin in it. Of course, unlike Hassan, everyone else who Ethan was beefing with online reacted to the video as soon as it dropped. Denims, Kaseytron, and Frogan being some of them, but people like Asmongold and XQC also tuned in. So why were Kasey, Denims, and Frogan the main targets of the lawsuit? Well, Ethan explained in a video he titled, "I'm suing these 3 creators." According to Ethan, the harassment primarily centered around the H3 Snark subreddit. This sub was the center of operations where all of Ethan's haters met and planned how they were going to ruin his day, at least according to Ethan. The sub, being composed of haters, wanted to watch the video but did not want him to make money off of them. So as we can see here, the sub made a list of streamers who planned on watching the nuke when it went live, and invited people to watch it with them, with the purpose of not giving Ethan's video any support. It's not entirely clear if all of these streamers were working directly with the Snark subreddit, but I think some probably did, and that will likely come out in Discovery. Now, in case you don't know, it's illegal to watch a movie and stream it live. This is called piracy, and well, the same idea applies to a YouTube video. It might not feel the same because a YouTuber is not a multi-billion-dollar production company, unless you're Mr. Beast, but the law applies the same way. Ethan even admits in his lawsuit explanation video that while he did not want these people to react to his nuke, he knew that they would.
And it was in this setting that I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long-form, irresistible piece of content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist, they couldn't avoid the temptation of watching it the second it was published?
I don't have an issue with them.
It's not that I wanted these people to steal my video. It's that I knew they would. I knew they would watch the entire video, add little to no commentary, react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined it would.
Hearing this, people immediately jumped at the chance to claim that this was entrapment. And while it may seem like the case optics-wise, many lawtubers have come out to say that Ethan is legally in the right here. The channel Legal Mindset would use this example.
Now, some people have said this is a trap, calling the Admiral Akbar, it's a trap! But really, the law doesn't care whether or not you set it up that way, because frankly, in the eyes of the law, you're just planning to enforce your copyright. If you knew somebody was going to steal something from you and you took a measure to protect yourself, that's not a trap. That's like calling a house alarm a trap against burglars because it calls the police automatically. That's not really what happens here, and that's not really a defense. And frankly, I think one of the biggest issues here is that all of these channels were making it very, very clear that you should watch them instead of Ethan.
So Ethan honeypotted the internet. But again, why is he only suing these 3 people? According to Ethan, there was a very high bar that streamers had to clear in order to meet the criteria to get sued.
Now, before I tell you who the 3 people I'm suing are, I just want to make it clear that they all met this very specific high bar of criteria that I set forth earlier. These people were not targeted based on their gender, their identity, their political beliefs. All 3 are on this list. In fact, they're the only 3, as far as I could tell, that reacted to the full video.
But the main and probably the biggest thing was any person who intentionally reacted to the video with the intended purpose of stealing views from Ethan's original upload. Something that Ethan has pretty solid evidence of, courtesy of the H3 Snark sub who made the post advertising for people to watch his video on other people's streams. But to dig the hole even deeper, he has evidence coming from the streamers themselves.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, throw a prime if you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
We're gonna watch it live, yes. He doesn't want people to know when it's dropping because we're all watching through other streamers. And I suggest you all watch it through other people as well.
A lot of people have been wanting to watch this without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein. Without necessarily supporting Ethan Klein. So we're gonna watch it.
It doesn't take a lawyer to see that these confessions are pretty damning. I mean, they're literally admitting to doing it. This is already not allowed on YouTube, and you already are protected to some degree by the copyright system that YouTube has. But Ethan took things a step further, because since he knew that these people were all going to do exactly this, he officially copyrighted the video with the US government, thus giving him the ability to legally pursue these people even further.
There's one thing about copyright you should know is that you got to register it before you publish to be eligible for statutory damages and attorney's fees, which is the main biting force of a copyright infringement lawsuit. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys now, I, Ethan Klein, have registered Hassan Piker Content Nuke with the United States Library of Congress. Some of you guys out there sweating?
Basically, he can sue them for more money than if the video was just copyrighted under YouTube. A lot of people have been claiming that Ethan's original plan was to sue Hassan, but Ethan denied these claims, stating that he gave Hassan permission to watch the video, essentially giving him a license.
By the way, the reason I'm not suing Hassan, I'll say this because I see this is already a message too that's dumb. I was never planning on suing Hassan. This was not a trap for Hassan. I asked him to react to it. I would never sue someone if I asked them, because asking someone to watch your content is essentially granting a license. So my intention was never to sue Hassan. And
Also, even if you did,
I would not win.
he spent 12 hours watching 45 minutes. I think that's fair use.
So-
I think he more than cleared that bar.
Exactly. So not only was this not a trap because I gave him a license by asking him, but also Hassan in this case offers the best example of what fair use is.
Seeing as Hassan took an almost 2-hour video and managed to stretch his reaction out over the course of 2 whole days. If that's not fair use, I don't know what is. But that brings us to fair use. For the uninformed, Ethan has actually set legal precedent on what fair use is in the past, in his 2017 case against another YouTuber, which set the legal foundation to identify what fair use is. The case was actually, funnily enough, a lawsuit against Ethan for reacting to another creator's video. Everything comes full circle. Ethan won the case and was able to prove that his reaction video was transformative, and this became case law that helps identify what exactly fair use is. Basically, fair use is when you take another form of content and transform it into something different. This can be done by critiquing the content, adding your own spin, and of course, reacting or commenting on what is happening. As a general rule of thumb for it to be transformative, the final result should be longer than the original video, and preferably not use the entirety of the original content. But the lines are still not very clear in many cases. This was a big deal back when every streamer was doing React content and watched entire seasons of MasterChef live on stream, sometimes playing entire episodes with little to no commentary. Since then, things have calmed down a bit, but there are still people who take advantage of this meta. The bottom line is you can't just re-upload someone else's video with you not doing anything or even talking, which was another factor that Ethan looked for when deciding who to sue. In this screenshot from his explanation video, we can see that out of the entire almost 2-hour content nuke, Kaseytron only spoke for about 15 minutes and smoked the ganj for 18 minutes. She smoked more than she spoke. Her commentary most of the time was her talking about being too stoned and not knowing what's going on, which is actually a great example of something that is not transformative. In the lawsuit documents, Ethan claims that Frogan even has a moment where she asks her chat if she can go to the bathroom. There's also the clip of Frogan's chat getting mad at her for not really reacting to the video as she was watching it.
I don't have anything to say? Dude, because he's cycling the same fucking points over and over again. What more commentary do you need on him repeating the same fucking points for the whole first hour 1 minute and 32 seconds? It's been the same shit over and over again. This video could have been condensed into 20 fucking minutes. Like, what commentary do you want me to add by, like, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot, he's mentally ill, and he's having a mental breakdown and uploaded it to fucking YouTube?
The lawsuit also claims that Denims was silent for over 70 minutes of the video, which is a little over 100 minutes long. Basic math tells us that Denims did not react for 70% of the content nuke, which is hard to call transformative. Frogan and Kaseytron have begun deleting some of their VODs, which is a huge mistake. The legal term for this is spoliation, which just means to get rid of evidence. This not only makes you look more guilty, but it's also pointless because it's either backed up by Twitch's servers or Ethan's team has already gotten copies of these VODs. It's unclear what their legal defenses are going to be, but apparently Kaseytron's is that she was just too stoned.
I don't recall reacting to it. I don't believe that I reacted to it. I do not remember. I don't know. I may have been under the influence, but I do not recall reacting to it.
Which I don't think a judge will find amusing. If anything, I feel like a judge would punish me more severely if I tried to pull something like that in court. Legally speaking, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched a lot of lawyers on YouTube say this already, Ethan's case is pretty rock solid. These people outright admitted to what they were doing, and despite people all over the internet rushing to their defense, saying that this is entrapment, or that he's coming after smaller creators and women, at the end of the day, these women are going to have to face a judge who will be looking at this from a purely legal point of view. People defending these streamers have also brought up the fact that Ethan in the past said that people could clip his content and re-upload it.
If you want to cut up clips from the podcast, from our members live, from anything with me in it, go for it, man. Monetize it. I will not claim. I will not remove. I will not do anything. I mean, to be fair, it's basically been my policy. I don't claim or remove anything really at all.
But now you're making it explicit.
But regardless of if he said that or not, legally, the copyright owner can rescind any permissions they may have ever given on their content at any time they wish, which might sound unfair, but the law is the law. So this cannot be used as a defense, and neither can entrapment, since technically, Ethan did not want them to react to the video in the first place. Again, taking measures into your own hands to protect yourself from something is not entrapment. The bigger picture is that reaction content is a very tricky thing to deal with. And now people are getting really scared thinking that Ethan is trying to attack all reaction creators, but he claims that this is not the case.
Again, I hope it's been obvious about why I'm suing these three people and not others. These people not only violated all of the principles of fair use, they also did it maliciously. And that's the part that really got me. I think if you're a reactor on Twitch, for the most part, if you make a good faith effort to comment, and if you make a good faith effort to promote the author, to link to them, to try to drive traffic to the original video, I think you're probably pretty much doing the right thing, and that's fine. And I would never sue someone for that. Take it to these three absolute morons to state their intention to steal my property on video.
And this kind of makes sense. You have to remember that the creators who are hurt the most by the reaction content are the ones who made the original video. Imagine you put hours, days, and even weeks into making something, only for a larger creator to basically re-upload it with minimal talking or commentary, and steal any new views that you could have potentially gotten, which also results in a loss of your potential revenue. There's arguments that reaction content can be beneficial for the original creators, but currently, the system can be taken advantage of too easily, and it just isn't fair at all. This should be handled a bit better by these platforms, but laws around this sort of thing are still pretty loose, which is why this situation could and probably will have a huge impact on reaction content. And again, we saw this happen in the MasterChef era when everyone got scared that Twitch itself would be sued by Gordon Ramsay. This could have resulted in Twitch banning React content altogether, which would put a lot of streamers out of a job. Another one of Ethan's reasons for the lawsuit is his ongoing feud with the H3 Snark sub and Reddit as a whole. Ethan has spoken about his belief that people working at Reddit have purposely helped out the Snark sub by not banning them for their harassment, and even going as far as colluding with Snark mods in their attacks. And that's really what these Snark subs tend to do. It's basically everyone who doesn't like a creator for a certain thing getting together and talking about how much they don't like them. Sometimes, and actually most of the time, this results in the creator getting harassed by these people. And at the time of this recording, news that a creator by the name Save a Fox, also known as Michaela Rains, came out that she took her own life because people online were harassing her, and most of this came from her own Snark subreddit, which is something that Ethan believes is the end goal for all the Snark subs, basically bullying their victims until they take their own lives. Creators like Trisha Paytas have managed to get their Snark subs permanently removed for harassment, but for some reason the H3 Snark sub seems untouchable, at least according to Ethan. Since the lawsuit news broke, the Snark sub has been fairly quiet, and some of the moderators have even deleted their accounts, likely due to the fear that they will be legally pursued. But that won't do much for them if Ethan gets a subpoena on Reddit itself. Because the Snark mods posted and admitted that they were restreaming his video with the intent to not give him any views, he will be able to subpoena Reddit and get to the bottom of what the Snark mods and Reddit itself is doing to target him. He has talked about having people on the inside who've provided him with proof that the Snark mods are actively plotting against him, but a court subpoena would give him undeniable proof in the eyes of the law, and hopefully get Reddit to start cracking down on other Snark subs. With Ethan taking this to court on a smaller scale, hopefully some guardrails can be implemented, or at the very least put everyone on their toes so that a bigger situation, like a multi-billion-dollar production company suing Twitch, doesn't happen down the line that actually affects every React creator negatively. To quote an article on copyrightlately.com, whether courts will accept that a vibe is transformative remains to be seen, but if not, the days of the lean back and React economy may be numbered, and content creators everywhere will need to decide if they're actually reacting or just along for the ride, which I think is pretty well put. But now we have other creators wanting to hop on the lawsuit train, and even some celebrating that these people are getting sued. So clearly something is happening already, and it hasn't even gotten into the courthouse yet. To be honest, I kinda see Ethan's reasoning, but we still have no idea what effect this lawsuit will have on YouTube, Twitch, and even in US law. And believe me, it will have an effect, so we'll just have to wait to see how it all plays out. Frogan, Denims, and Kaseytron have all started GoFundMes in hopes of raising enough funds for their legal fees. And while they are getting donations, I'm not confident that whatever amount of money they raise will be enough to pay for their own lawyers, potential settlements, and especially Ethan's lawyer fees. Because when you lose in a lawsuit, you not only have to pay your lawyers, you have to also pay the other party's legal fees, which could be upwards of tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. At first, it didn't look like these women were taking the situation too seriously, which I don't think was smart because every legal breakdown I've seen online basically confirms that they screwed themselves, especially when they admitted to streaming the video knowing that Ethan would lose views. So, unless these women get insanely good lawyers, the case is almost decided already, at least from what I've seen. But again, I'm not a lawyer. What this means for their careers, I really don't know. I mean, if they settle, then maybe everyone can come to an agreement and just leave each other alone. But if they try to fight this, then maybe Ethan will make it into law books and set legal standards for copyright law yet again. However, the effects of the situation are already being felt online. Hopefully, it has long-lasting positive effects on React content, and we see creators putting a lot more effort into their content. But everything is still too early to tell. And that's pretty much everything as of right now. Leave a like if you made it this far. Make sure to hit the sub button and let me know what you think. Is Ethan in the wrong here?